So let's take a look at what's going to end up being our first trade here in this MyNBA. And just to give you a little bit of a background, it's going to be a trade we're making with the Atlanta Hawks. And let's just kind of take a look again from the game perspective of what this trade might look like. Because, a trade in real life versus a trade in a game might not always match up, or we might see it possibly even being a crazier thing. So, of course, here you're seeing the Timberwolves were listed as a selling team. Not a huge surprise there. We go over to the Hawks. They're a very similar record to us, also a selling team. And if you look there, it says the front office is ready to give up with its current roster and will be looking to get draft picks and prospects to start the rebuild. This trade has Atlanta sending two things to us. One is the center there, Capella. He's going to be coming over. Luckily, our coach is playing him out of position at power forward when I tested this. And it's, I think, going to be a really nice deal for us. It also helps them kind of blow up the roster, which is something they wanted to do. In return, they're getting Jarrett Culver, and they are getting a player who's going to probably serve as a mentor to their sixth overall pick here, the guy at USC in 2020. They're getting James Johnson from us, who will serve as a mentor. Both the players we're sending them are technically on expiring contracts. Culver's got two team options, two team options, I should say, and it really gives them a little bit of flexibility. Of course, they have DeAndre Hunter at small forward, but Culver can give them some at least an option that would be a nice complementary player, maybe a player who can play out of position for them a little bit, but it gives them a little bit of flexibility. It frees up a lot of cap space. Capello is making a nice chunk of money there, and it potentially gives them an opportunity to go into the offseason with a lot of money. So yes, they're giving up a nice young player in Capella, but they are getting Culver back, who's much, much cheaper. Probably a more flexible fit for them, as Capella is pretty much just a center and we'll be playing him out of position. Atlanta's also sending a first-round pick. It's a conditional pick, though, so it's top 10 protected. So really, it's not a when you hear first-round pick in Madden or something like that, it's obviously a bit of a different story here. And so let's go through and just kind of take a look at what this trade looks like. But it's what I just said, basically. So it's going to be Jarrett Culver, who, again, former sixth overall pick himself just a year ago. We are sending him packing along with James Johnson. This actually satisfies a couple of our owner goals, and I can back out and show you those really quick. We're going to be satisfying the trading James Johnson one before the deadline, obviously. It's going to get rid of at least one. We have too many players at small forward. And so we'll be able to take care of that. And actually, there's another one that we're about to get here that would also work. So they want to accelerate the rebuild. Let's grab an extra first. Sure, because I have a deal with the Hawks lined up. So that's going to work out really, really well. And so same thing here. Let's jump in and get this one. But I think this is just, what does he want to do? Yeah, just some prices. Sure, I've been doing that. You just haven't noticed, Mr. Chase. So we're going to be able to satisfy, again, trading James Johnson, getting rid of at least one small forward, which is weird because this will eventually say we have too many players at small forward, get rid of at least zero. So I'm not sure if that's a glitch or if I have to just keep getting rid of them, or maybe this was just the bare minimum to meet the goal. But nonetheless, maybe this trade will bump us up a little bit. We're currently the 24th best roster, but I don't think it's going to have like a massive impact or anything. But we should satisfy a couple goals here by making this deal. So again, we can just pop in here and we're going to do just that. So Jarrett Culver, James Johnson, hit start. We're going to scroll over. I looked at this ahead of time here. And so the Hawks. So Clint Capella and their first top 10 protected. That's exactly the trade I talked about here. Again, Capella, let's start with his contract. So they are freeing up some money, especially in some future years. And again, it may be crazy, but the game is saying that we want to tear up, we want to blow it up. We want to send guys out like this who have big contracts. They want to tear it down and start over. So if anything, I'm really curious to see, we can kind of mark this as a little point to check, but what will the Hawks do after this trade? What will this team look like, say, next year at the deadline or something like that? I think it could be a pretty cool conversation to have there. So who are we getting here in Clint Capella? Well, we're getting a guy who is a really, really good defensive player and who can play down low on offense. And so if you look at his badges there on offense, and if you look at his defensive badges, this is exactly what I was talking about in episode 2. He's a center though, so he'll be playing out of position, but he's a guy who can really, really shut things down on the inside. Again, he can chip in a little bit on offense, as we saw with the badges, but post defense rebounding is just outstanding, and still got some really nice potential in this player. So he's a year older than Carl Anthony. He has a 1 year less on his contract. So really, this gives us two big guys to start building around a little bit. This can kind of narrow down a little bit maybe what we're doing in the draft. And what I like about this pick is it gives us a little bit of protection ourselves because we have a top 3 protected draft pick, which we very well may lose. And so if you kind of just do the simple math, we have about a 50% chance of having at least one first round pick this year. Whether it's this one, that would be like 11 through 30, or if it's ours, that would be 1, 2, or 3. So it at least gives us a little bit of flexibility there. You can see we are getting back more talent. So if you think this trade is a little lopsided, it seems like it is. But this is what the trade engine has done. This is the trade that I think is going to be a good fit for us. And we're going to move forward here and, again, start kind of tearing down the roster ourselves. So there's the trade. Ryan Saunders is excited. Trust 10 for getting rid of James Johnson. He's happy. But notice this goal is now saying 0 for some weird reason there. So I guess we also got credit for getting a veteran. So that's good. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think that actually may have hurt us. So they want us to actually pick up 2 more veterans. So that's an interesting thing there. Is I've kind of put myself in a hole by getting James Johnson sent off the roster. That has actually worked backwards. So that's actually kind of cool to see that did have some sort of impact there. So, and did we get continue or rebuild by trading for a first round pick? That's interesting, right? Because although maybe these won't register yet, maybe that's why they're not there. But the James Johnson one did. So I don't know. That's weird. Maybe it's just because it's a protected pick. We don't technically have it yet. So anyway, but there's our first trade. So exciting times. We're meeting with the press, and this is the first time that I've actually seen us on a news show, which is kind of cool. So here we are, reporters interviewing us here on the VCTV news, breaking news at that. So Nathan Melbourne's asking us, with recent trade negotiations leaking to the press, how worried are you about a perceived look or lack of professionalism on your part? So we've seen these questions before, but as far as I know, this is a new background here, which is kind of cool. I don't know, just business. Don't worry about that. Everything we do is above board. We don't play games in the press like some other organizations might. Boy, that's still a jab there, huh? My owner's happy. He's liking me. One more question. Bringing in Clint Capella seems to be a popular move with the fans. But from a basketball standpoint, how do you see him fitting in with the team? Well, probably the same reason why the fans are excited. He's a good starter. He's going to blend in seamlessly with what we want to do in the starting lineup. It might take some time for everyone to fully gel, but they'll get there, and Clint will be a big part of our future success. So I guess that's a better answer. Clint Capella's happy. That'll do it. We just recently unlocked our first facility here, and we have a few different choices. So we can upgrade the amenities, we can upgrade luxury suites, concessions, front office, which is a parking garage for some reason, or ad space. And again, as I just click through these, you can see the different options that are available to us there. And again, these are through the GM skills, which I don't know if they're a new feature or not, because I didn't play a ton of my GM last year. But nonetheless, we're going to end up going with ad space here. So we have selected that, and we have our first facility. So Carl Anthony Towns has reached out to us. This is a few days after the trade. We've actually played 3 games, and apparently he's just heard that there's a rumor that we may be getting Clint Capella, even though Carl Anthony Towns has started next to Clint Capella for 3 games. But nonetheless, Carl Anthony says, "Hey, Mike, I need to talk to you about these Capella rumors. You're not actually thinking about doing that, are you?" So I don't know if he's referring to starting or not. Um, he also has what looks like a high schooler's bedroom with like pennants on the wall. Uh, some homework maybe on the bulletin board there. Just an interesting screen there. Um, yeah, I can promise you he's not going to be traded. Maybe that makes more sense. He's upset that he might be traded, but what what rumor is that? He isn't going anywhere. We just got him, bro. Chill. Well, that's a relief because to be honest, if he goes, then I go. All right, well, that's good. I'm glad they like each other. This team needs him. It needs a GM who respects it. Bud, we're on the same page, man. We're totally on the same page. I don't know why my assistant GM is so upset, and I'm not sure why Clint Capella was in on this, but maybe they talked, right? They're buds. So we just got to the team selection here for the All-Star game, and we're approaching the end of March, and you can see Team LeBron, Team Giannis, and we're just going to go through and watch this draft here. James Harden, first pick, wants me to pick. I don't want to pick. So we're going to auto draft the rest of it, and there you go. I'll give you a second to look at those. The latest GM skill I just unlocked is the ability to chit chat with players, and the first one that came up here is none other than Clint Capella, who says he's feeling pretty good after having a good game in a win against his former team, the Hawks, there. And so says he feels like he belongs and just wanted to know that he's happy to wanted me to know that he's happy to play here. So yeah, we'll caught him a little bit. So here we are at the trade deadline, March 25th, and we are going to be making a second deal on the season here, which of course will be our last deal here with the trade deadline expiring after today. As we look at our team tasks here, we can ignore a lot of these, right? Because they're not going to trigger here just yet, but these three will. And two of these right here are just not really tasks that we're going to be able to meet, it looks like. We're not going to suddenly jump 10 spots and be a top 15 spot in the league. And we have acquired a first round pick. I don't think we'll be acquiring another one here in this next trade we're doing. And even though we did acquire one in the previous trade, it doesn't look like it's triggering this exactly. And I think it's just because it's a conditional pick that we technically don't have yet until we see the lottery results. So getting rid of Ricky Rubio is one that we're going to be able to hit here, and that's the move we're making. I've done a few different kind of exploratory things in regards to a trade around Ricky Rubio, and he's a player I think we can move. I like Ricky Rubio. He doesn't make crazy money or anything for his rating, but he's a backup on our team. He's a really really good player. I really actually like his makeup a lot. He's a really good defender and good playmaker. But that's just money that can be spent elsewhere. It's talent on this roster that can be spent elsewhere while we have some positions that aren't as strong as point guard. D'Angelo Russell, great offensive player. He's not exactly who I would, kind of typically put in the point guard spot. But if we can continue to build this team around defense, which is something I'm really, really focused on doing, we can afford to have D'Angelo Russell, who is, while an outstanding offensive player, isn't quite the same player, defensively, and I think that's a fair assessment there. So we can kind of get away with. He's too good just to disregard, even though he's not a perfect fit for what I'm trying to do. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. He's progressed really well. I mean, he's a 38 badge point guard. We're not in a rush to get him out of town. So he makes a lot of money here the next few years. But I think at least going in the next year, we can kind of see how this goes, and then maybe we make a decision in 2022 on Russell. Whether he's going to continue to be the solution for us or not. So we move Rubio. It's going to bring up some more playing time for McLaughlin, who is one of a handful of unhappy players. Anthony Edwards continues to progress. We had talked earlier about kind of his injury there, kind of the same thing. is something I'm really keeping an eye on. I don't think he's an untouchable for me because of that knee injury. I mean, it almost seems like a matter of time. Malik Beasley was another guy I wanted to trade. He has an expiring contract. He doesn't want to re-sign, but I can't trade him. Right, he's injured. Whoops. And so even if I were to go back into this trade finder and I try to add him to this trade, it's saying you can't trade him because he's got a day-to-day injury. So I even explored kind of shipping out one of these shooting guards. They're both kind of just lower tier guys, younger, maybe developmental project guys. Evans can play the point, so can Noel. But it didn't really, if anything, it actually hurt our trade ability because I think it just added a little bit too much cap space. So we're going to just, again, stick so far with Rubio. Small forward, again, a lot of depth. I really like McDaniels. He's going to be, I think, a really nice player as he continues to develop A- potential. But he's an offensive-focused player, right? He's a 3-level scorer, as you can see there. And I think he'll complement, at least for next year, if we can't fill in this small forward position with something a little bit more substantial. It's a decent 1-2 punch with a guy like Josh Okogie, who is a pretty decent defender, at least for what we have on the team. And he's a good perimeter defender, and he's pretty athletic and can chip in a little bit on offense. So we can see, these guys we could make do. Layman's the guy we're going to be moving in this trade, and then we have Bolmero, who again is just a kind of a guy we're keeping an eye on. He has B+ potential, so it's not anything we're kind of hoping him to turn into LeBron James or anything, but he's a guy we'll keep around. Let's see. We have a lot of centers, and same thing, kind of like the shooting guards I talked about. I tried even throwing in Amari Spellman. I wanted to keep Reed, but it just kind of limited the teams that were interested. And so really this trade is going to be this. It's going to be Jake Layman and Ricky Rubio. And when we looked at all of these different offers, the one that stood out the most to me was with the Utah Jazz. And it immediately gives us a really nice upgrade here at small forward, at least for the time being. Is this going to be the end-all, be-all solution to the small forward position? No. It might not even be a solution for next season. But I would like to see how this team does with, I mean, really now we're going to have 5 bona fide starters on this team, guys who are rated 79 or higher. And so I'd be curious to see how this team does with that. I think we're building a lot around defense. Joe Ingles can also, I hope I'm saying his name right, but Ingles can also, he's a great 3-point shooter, but he can play defense, right? He can pass the ball fairly well, can even contribute on the inside. And so it has some position flexibility there. If we want to go small, put him at the point forward for, we want to start shooting some threes. So I like him. Also, he's 33, right? So this is a really good fit for our assistant coaches who work well with veterans. So it's kind of a great solution. So like if we don't find a small forward in free agency or the draft, we have our 5 starters for next year. We can just go with it as is. We'd have Russell, we'd have Anthony Edwards, we'd have Ingles, and we'd have Capella, and of course Towns at the center positions. And so we'd be in a good spot. And so at that point, if we don't have a draft pick, we'll survive. If we don't sign any free agents, well, we'll survive. We should be a better team at least. And again, both of those are highly unlikely that we wouldn't do anything. And if we do end up drafting somebody, there's no rush. We don't have to, force them into a position where they're forced to contribute and try to help this team win right away. They can come in and maybe be a 6th man or something like that. So Ed Davis, really just a throw-in player to kind of make the salary work. He'll give us, I guess, a little bit of depth at power forward, which is nice. He's a decent player. It's not that I don't like him. He's a really nice rebounder, but he'll just be there. He isn't going to be on the team next year, it seems. So, but this takes care of these longer contracts that we really don't have a need for, and we get Ingles, who is going to be kind of an option moving forward. So that's the trade we're going to do. They've agreed to our trade, and there we go. As far as the teams doing this, there we get some more trust. Our governor's very happy with us right now. So again, not even if we don't hit these last few tasks, that's not the end of the world there. He's pretty happy with the job we're doing. But when we go and look, the Jazz are pretty bad. I think they're actually worse than we are. Yeah, they are a terrible team. So it's an interesting move for them, picking up Ricky Rubio. But let's just go and see. And again, I have trade approval on. I know I could sit here and even use like the Operation Sport Forum and get approval on trades. I know that's been a thing in the past, but I am just really trying to see, what are these teams doing? Because it might not always seem like it makes sense, but it could. So they have Mike Conley, right? And Mike Conley is in the last year of his contract, makes a ton of money. This team's not going to re-sign Mike Conley. So again, it gives them a little bit of flexibility to say, okay, well, we want Ricky Rubio. We're going to run with Ricky Rubio next year, and maybe he's going to be a mentor to a point guard that they pick up in the draft or something like that. And so that makes a lot of sense. They uh, they give up a small forward, which is probably the interesting move here. But again, they might have some position flexibility. Again, we just don't exactly know what they're looking to do. And so I like to see it. As a Piston fan, I've seen a lot of really weird Piston trades over the years. I mean, look at the Andre Drummond trade. They basically gave him away to a division rival. I mean, it's weird, right? Stuff like this happens, and I'm really curious to see how the game handles all of this. And so but yeah, that's the trade. I have put Towns and Capella as untouchables just because I keep getting tons of teams for some reason reaching out to me about Capella, and I'm just sick of declining those. So, but yeah, that's what we did here on trade deadline day. So we are going to be jumping ahead and finishing the season here, and possibly even more. So now that the trade deadline has passed, and by the way, we did get credit for obtaining a first round pick. It triggered at the end as I advanced past the trade deadline. We were the only trade on the trade deadline day. So, I talk a lot about NBA 2K being the best sports game I've ever played, but this is an area that could definitely be improved. We look at another game I've been a big fan of over the years, NHL, the EA NHL series. One of their big feature upgrades this year has been a trade deadline feature. It's very similar to what you see in FIFA where they're doing like the signing day thing where it kind of ticks down by the hour. Really, really cool feature, and it really adds a lot of just complexity to that mode. And so, um, yeah, I was surprised to see that this was the only trade. I mean, of course, there were a bunch of other trades prior to that, including the one that we made earlier. And so, yeah, I just wanted to fill you guys in on that the trade deadline was pretty uneventful here. But again, it's okay. This one season, I don't know if it's always going to be like this. If you had different experiences with the trade deadline, definitely let us know.
As we approach the end of the regular season here, I just saw a note that the Spurs hired Tim Duncan as their head coach. So kind of a cool little storyline they're developing. All right, so we are at the end of the regular season here. I ended up just playing 3 games this season. Really looking forward to getting into the off season and kind of making this team a little bit more of my own. And then more games during the season will be played as this team starts to take on, I guess, the identity that I'm looking to try and rebuild it with here. So we are looking at the 2021 awards. And Giannis wins the MVP award. Of course, probably not a huge surprise. I think every little test sim I've done, he ended up winning the MVP. Really nice season, 31 points, 15 rebounds, 6 assists. Man, that's just an absolute sick year. So we look at the All NBA first team. I'll just kind of scroll through it and let you look at the names. With this first season, there's not a ton of surprises typically. It's nice to see that all these players are still on their original teams. So we didn't see too many crazy trades or anything like that. So, yeah, all these players, same thing, still on their original team. So, for better or worse, at least we're not seeing super crazy stuff. Anthony Edwards there makes the all rookie first team. And here's what the playoff bracket looks like. So, of course, we did not make the playoffs. There's a chance we might not get a first round pick. I'll back out and show you that here in just a second. But it's all going to depend on what the lottery looks like, of course. But there is the playoff bracket. So I'll pause there and give you a chance to look. Clippers with the number 1 spot in the West. Milwaukee, number 1 spot in the East. And again, Golden State, really nice year. Boston, a nice year. So we'll be getting through that here shortly. But let me show you. And I don't know if this, oh, they don't have it anymore. They had a lottery odds thing here during the season. It looks like it went away. as the playoffs started. But we can obviously just jump in and look at standings. And so we look at standings here. We're the third worst team in the West. And in the East, the Hawks were the fifth worst team. So, again, just kind of using, the 427 win percentage for them. Ours is 402. So that puts us third and them fourth. Let's see, fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth, ninth. So, I mean, both of these picks, if the lottery kind of goes as is, would be like around like the 8 to 10 range. And that very likely could have us missing both of these. So again, theirs is a top 10 protected. In that case, it would be a top 10, most likely will be. That will stay with Atlanta and we get theirs next year. And ours is the top 3 protected. So unless we jump up, 5, 6, 7 spots, ours would go to Golden State. So I think making that trade that we did to kind of just solidify the starting lineup, even though he's older, getting Joe Ingles, it's just I'm happy with this move because at the very least we're going to be able to go in next year and we can look here and just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 starters who are all ranked 79 or higher, with some decent depth kind of developing behind it here as a sixth man and guys who can fill in off the bench obviously for injuries and so on. So we're in a pretty decent spot. So if we don't have one, it's not going to be the end of the world, and we'd end up with 2 first-round picks next year. So we'll just have to wait and see how that all goes. And again, you just never know with the lottery.
All right, so let's go and just do a sim of the playoffs here. So we're going to do round by round. We see quite a few game 7s here. So the Clippers are able to survive the first round and advance as the 1 seed. The Lakers upset Phoenix in a game 7. Dallas makes quick work of Houston in a sweep. And Golden State also goes 7. So the 1, 2, and 4 seed / 5 seed all go 7 games here to set up an interesting, pretty top-heavy second round in the Western Conference. In the East, it's another game 7. Milwaukee over Indianapolis. The 4 seed is also game 7 with the Miami advancing. Cleveland upsets Broncos, Brooklyn 4-2. And Orlando does pull the biggest upset so far in the playoffs, knocking off the Celtics 4-1, which sets up a 6-7 matchup in the Eastern Conference quarterfinal. And so, or I should say the semifinal. So same thing. Let's do a second round sim here. We have a 1-4, 6-7, and a 1-5, 2-3. So a little more balanced here on the West. So in the West, the Lakers upset crosstown rival Clippers 4-3. So another game 7 there. Dallas has not lost yet. They are 8-0 and are in the conference finals in the West to face the Lakers. Over in the East, Miami upsets Milwaukee. So we have a 4 seed advancing over the 1 seed Milwaukee. And Cleveland makes pretty quick work over Orlando there, winning 4-1. So it sets up a 4-6 in the East versus a 3-5 in the West. We could be seeing a LeBron James versus one of his former teams there. So kind of an interesting storyline there. So let's take a look at the next round. Well, Dallas finally lost, but they do advance, so they go a game 7. But the Lakers played in 3 game 7s and end up losing this one in Dallas there. So the Mavericks advance to the finals in another game 7 here as well, with the Miami Heat advancing. So Mavericks versus Heat will be the finals. And Dallas sweeps yet again. So Dallas swept 3 of the 4 rounds. That is quite the performance there. Luka Doncic gets MVP awards, or the award I should say, and the honors. 40 minutes played, 40 points per game in the playoffs. That's unreal. Boy, just completely dominant. Almost 10 boards. Still had 12 assists with the 40 points. I mean, this guy's involved in just about every point they're scoring almost. So pretty impactful there. Now, if you're curious to see how this season looked, I have, or I should say, I am in the midst here of uploading a 2K scenario. If you look for Mike Lowe, end of 2000, actually, I'll change that to 21. End of 2021, you will see that new scenario. So that's now up there if you would like to take a closer look at how things looked in detail with this particular franchise save. And I'll do that at the end of each season there. So take a look. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 3. We are through the 2020-2021 season. The Dallas Mavericks are the champs. Minnesota Timberwolves were quite far off. So the next season, of course, is going to be entirely the off season. We're going to also look at some team stats, some player stats that kind of stood out, and really just a general plan for what my plan is for this Timberwolves team moving forward. So, guys, thanks for watching. I'm Mike Lowe. I'm on Twitter at MikeLowe47. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you like this video and series of videos, give us a like and check out some of the other videos there. I'll see you next time.